Hey guys, it's been a bit, but I thought I would get back to doing a few Reddit stories, as I've really enjoyed the past ones. So this time we're going to go with two stories, both of fairly different themes and at fairly different paces, and we'll see how they go. We'll see how crazy things have been in the absence I've had since the last few stories. So let's just get straight into it, and we'll see how we do. One of my players disrespected the table so hard that I'm considering kicking him. We are in the middle of the party's Warlock character arc. Literally the next session will be fighting his patron, a Kraken, so currently he's the only player who is absolutely necessary and who the game cannot run without. So the day comes and I sent out a poll in Discord asking who will be there, who will be late and who will be missing, etc, etc. He answers first, in mere seconds after the poll is posted, and he marked that he will be there on time. Everyone gathers. A couple of us, including myself, are in a bad mental health spot, so playing the game would really perk us up for the rest of the week. Two of my players are parents, and they've left their child's birthday party early in order to be there on time. Grandparents took over and the kid is only 2, so she didn't even notice. The Kraken sheet has been tweaked and the map is ready. I found a metal version of the Kraken theme from Pirates of the Caribbean, we had snacks, we had dice, we were ready. Except our Warlock is nowhere to be found. He has been texted multiple times by multiple people, he was called, no answer, and after we sat and waited for him for over an hour and a half, I regretfully released my friends to go back to their evenings. Almost 2 hours after the game was meant to begin, he texted the group, "Hey, sorry, I left my house without my phone." That was it. No further apologies, no acknowledgement of the fact that the session was cancelled because of him. After making sure cooler heads than mine reviewed the text before I sent it, I told him that I felt extremely disrespected by the dismissive display towards everyone's time, effort and sacrifice, especially his own arc, and that it just won't be tolerated a second time. And he texted me back almost a full day later that he didn't really think an apology would help. I'm freaking livid, Reddit. If he doesn't show next session, I'm about to railroad his Warlock into getting pulled under and move on with the story for the sake of my players who actually care about it. I've never felt so slapped in the face. Frick all of my prep to give him a fun story, I guess. I don't know if it's me, but something about this story just reads off. I inherently went into it thinking, okay, sure, I've been that DM who has a player where they're central to the story and you have planned everything around them this session, you're really ready to give them a big story moment, and they've just gone ahead and gone, well, sorry, I won't be there. Or worse than that, they've just simply not turned up, or completely slept through the session and left you with nothing to do, maybe just a one-shot or some creative backstory telling, and that's it. This, though, feels odd. On the one hand, I'm going to say a little bit strange that the parents of a small 2-year-old child would leave their birthday party immediately, well, not immediately, but a little bit into it. I would have thought that you would prioritise the birthday of your child more than another day of D&D, but hey, fair enough. D&D is D&D and you're making the best of whenever you can play it. Sure, okay, but there is something about the fact that this Warlock presumably was into the story and ready for it beforehand, then just couldn't make it, and even then the text is vague. Surely as a DM you have some kind of update, something, but I'll continue to read the edits and see if there's anything a little bit more that explains the situation. Overall though, I really think that OP is maybe leaving something out, or something did happen. Edit. I sent him another message several hours ago telling him that I must insist on a real apology to the group at large before next session, and he immediately went offline and proceeded to ghost me. If he doesn't get his shit together and man up for the next session, he has 5 whole days to do it, then his Warlock is Kraken food. Okay, OP, again, this is kind of perhaps taking a little bit too far. I wouldn't say he's done anything too bad yet, but there's a second edit. Additional info. This situation is not the norm. I do run character arcs, but they're closely tied to the story, and at no point are the other characters not able to do things, even during someone else's arc. I don't normally cancel a session if one person doesn't show up. This game has been running for over 2 years, and maybe there's been 3 or so sessions that have totally required one character in particular. In every other situation and every other session, running them as an NPC would be totally valid, and we'd likely treat them as just simply not being there, and then taking a volunteer to run them in combat if applicable. I totally respect everyone saying just run it without him, and I'd agree with you during any other session, but if you were about to fight an entity that has hounded you explicitly for the entire campaign, and then that situation ran without you, wouldn't you be upset? I would be, so I wasn't willing to do that without him. Okay, scrolling back up, let's see. Was there any point where you made it clear that he was supposed to be there? And that the session would not go on without him? No, you set a poll, and he marked that he would be there. Okay. I have to say now that at this point, this is a failing on you as a DM, frankly. What you've written here in these edits tells to me that although it's fairly rare that your party misses sessions or doesn't run a session, there is a genuinely understood sort of guarantee that if you can't make the game, your character will be played as an NPC. Now, I understand that, to be fair, this is a very important moment in your story, and you want to run the character and get them to actually see what's going on, see the big moment. Now, they may not know that such a big moment is going to happen in this particular session, and you don't technically have to run it as such. There could be some opportunity for role-playing, some kind of smaller moment before you unleash the Kraken. I doubt the Kraken was out before this session, at least it doesn't seem like you framed it as such. So you could have had them on a ship or something, just simply talking for the session. And I know it wouldn't have been the session you wanted to run, but it would have been an opportunity for players to still play the game. I think that there is a little bit of unfairness here, because not knowing what has happened to this other player, the Warlock player, presumably they wanted to be there. They were the first person to answer. They were the eager player, and yet something has arisen and they were unable to make it, and everyone has just turned on them, become enemies. No, there has to be something else to do with this. And it does turn out that the comments seem to agree with me. There was a post from the OP around a month or so ago, which they're gushing about their table, and I presume that this includes the Warlock. There's a mention of a Warlock, a half-drow Warlock. Mimir has a way of thinking unlike anyone I've ever met. He keeps me on my toes with his off-the-wall ideas. We first discovered this talent when I gave him my Wand of Wonder 2 campaigns ago, and he used it every chance he got. He used telekinesis to hold up a collapsing building long enough for us to escape. He's used controlled water to turn Shocking Grasp into a ranged AoE spell. I gave him a Ring of Grammarian this campaign, and he almost immediately began using Eldritch Blast to summon a Shade of Cthulhu to inflict madness on his enemies. And friends, the first time, he is a natural born spellcaster, and his creativity with those spells is fantastic to watch and DM for. You go on to talk about how you love the table, you love playing with these people, and everything is just fun and joy and a great time, and what happened? There must be more information here. So one of the commenters asks, did he at least say where in the 10 hells he was this whole time? And the OP replies, yes he did. He went to go drop his car off at the shop and walked home, because on top of leaving his phone behind, he also couldn't be bothered to arrange transportation home for himself. And then users ask, did it break down? And the OP basically goes on to explain, not to their knowledge that they understand, but they do believe that he mentioned something about his car needing to be taken in at the previous game, and that he would have to make an appointment for it. But he left his phone behind, didn't apparently arrange any kind of transportation or anything, and didn't forewarn them because of it. Now, okay, there is some screw up here. He probably should have, obviously, he would have taken his phone had he remembered, and he's clearly forgotten it. But this still feels like a considerable overreaction to something which I would just kind of brush off. I can't help but feel like, because of the way you guys have reacted, this is maybe a more timid player, or at least out of characterly, someone who has seen the massive reaction to what's happened, and then kind of gone, well guys, I'm sorry, I don't think that anything I could have done would have made it feel better. And maybe they've just been taken aback by everything that's happened and just are trying to let it go past as quickly as possible. Maybe just hoping that, next session they'll come back and everything will be okay. One of the commenters here basically expresses my opinion, I think. Kenzie Blue 32 says, friend, I mean this in the kindest way possible, but you need to take a breath. You seem to have a lot of anger for your friend and intensity in every moment that makes me think that you need to take a break from D&D. It is clearly stressing you out to a point that I cannot imagine you were pleasant to be around. I mean, parents missed their 2-year-old birthday party to come to your game? Why? You should have cancelled the session as soon as you knew that the parents had somewhere else to be that was more important. You also are extremely overreacting to your friend's mistake. It just happens. As an adult, life finds things to throw at you, like children's birthday parties, and you need to learn how to deal with it in a healthy way, not losing your mind over someone missing a session in D&D. If you're this angry over a missed game, please take a step back. D&D is supposed to be fun for everyone, including the DM. And right now, I cannot imagine that your campaign is good for anyone's mental health when you get this angry over something like that. At most, it sucks. Do you find your players walking on eggshells around you to be not something that would set you off? Do you find yourself snapping when your party is confused about something that they should know? If so, take 2 weeks off and really think if DMing is a good idea when you're in a bad headspace. And in all honesty, I agree. This story, from the moment I started reading it, at first kind of felt like, okay, it's the typical story of a player who's late and they've pushed it too much, and now you're going, alright Reddit, should I kick them? They've done this too much, it's been a thing. But only a month ago you were singing their praises. What happened in 27 days that you've decided, I can't hack it anymore, I hate this person, they were amazing, they were a big part of the group, but now this is it. This one moment, it does suck a little bit that these two parents, for some unknown reason, took time out of the one moment their child would ever be 2 and came here to play D&D. But really, the session should never have happened because that birthday takes all priority over everything else. But regardless, it did happen. Okay. And the player didn't make it. Let's, because we don't have the full context, believe that it was done with the best intentions. They wanted to make it, they couldn't arrange transportation, and by the time they got back, they were just exhausted. I probably would be as well if I had to walk all the way from the shop, which I would presume is a while away, given what's happened here. You, honestly, as an adult, should have been able to understand what happened there. Let's say that this happened to one of my friends. If they came back to me and said, look, I'm really sorry, I told you the week before that I'd have to go and take my car in, stuff happened, I forgot my phone, I didn't make it back in time, I'm really sorry, I didn't say anything in the group chat because I know that everyone would be really mad at me, maybe I'll speak about something next week. I would go, man, it really sucks that we didn't get to do anything. I would have personally tried to maybe run a small one-shot or do some just general roleplay or something to make the moment at least not so heavily blamed on the warlock. But hey, not everyone has that to hand, sure. This, however, just kind of feels like is there something going on out of character? Do you guys have some kind of issue? Because this really reads like OP is losing it. OP is really stressed out, and I get it. Big moments in the story mean a lot to you. They're a lot of prep for a DM, but come on. This is not friendship ending. This is not friendship ruining. Just suck it up. Have a frank conversation with this guy and let it go. Honestly, if you've had a great campaign before, this is not the moment to throw them out, OP. I hope that you two can reconcile, get back together, and get some Kraken slaying done next time. Hopefully, at least without missing any birthday parties or any otherwise possibly forgetful car incidents. Now, that story was a little bit longer than I expected, based off the investigation we had to do at the end there, so let's go on with something a little bit smaller. This one will do. Whiplash. Very tame horror story here, meant as both a palate cleanser and to seek advice. I'm a new DM who's just starting a campaign, and I'm holding mini sessions for everyone at the moment, both to explain how everyone got together, give them both time, and for me, time to learn both the system and how each other play to avoid any potential road bumps. I've done them all now, and it's taught me a couple of important things. The first one was the biggest bump, and taught me just how important it is to plan ahead. The player was a rogue with criminal connections looking to begin a career in dungeon delving, and I decided that it would be a good idea to make a scenario where his criminal contact offered to help him get a head start if he retrieved a package from his hideout. which had several goblin squatters. The problem was, they were level 1. I had put a gnoll in this hideout, fine for a party of 4, not so much for one rogue. I heavily nerfed it, but even with reduced armor class and over half damage, it still nearly killed them. I learned then that CR1 does not in fact mean one person can handle it. Therapy, I just want to say, that is totally understandable. As someone who learnt DMing a few years ago now, that's something that I definitely had to try and figure out and understand. I don't think CR challenge rating is always that clear, especially if you're someone brand new to playing D&D and TTRPGs in general. It takes a bit to understand, and I do think this concept of mini sessions, trying a little bit of character building, that's a really good thing to do as a new DM. It gets your players into the world, it makes them feel kind of seen by you, they get their own moment where they're solo with the DM, and they kind of have these opportunities to do some real story building, and that's great. I think the idea of the rogue kind of going in, slashing goblins, taking back this hideout, that's a cool idea, and heavily nerfing it so that it was almost possible, that's good. It sounds like it still managed to be accomplished, so if anything, I think that whilst this may feel like a bit of a screw up, you succeeded here. The issue I want advice with is one that has been present in every mini session, and the main one I want advice in. Every time I've begun these mini sessions, in voice or text chat, I've struggled to find a way to start the roleplay. I don't know how to segue from, alright, are we ready to start, to, and so you begin your journey, as insert plot. It's so awkward, as every time I spend a solid minute building up the courage to say, F it, and start roleplaying anyway, extremely awkwardly, as you may have predicted. Does anyone know how to deal with this? Okay. This is a thing that I don't think you're going to be able to get too much specific advice on, and it's more of just a experience thing. As you get to know your party and as you become more used to playing as a DM, as the kind of overarching leader role in organising these kinds of things. Your role as a DM in these scenarios is always going to be gently nudging your players into in character. You're going to be narrating scenarios, and if at times you're comfortable with it, do some voice acting. Play the shopkeep, give them that wizened old voice. Play the barmaid. Play the goblin character that everyone loves. Just kind of get in character with them. Every now and then they might do something and you'll say, oh, describe that for me. Or they roll a skill check and you can ask them, hey, what does your character do? Or even in combat, in the scenario you talked about earlier with the goblins and the rogue kind of slashing and bashing their way through the hideout, describe what the rogue is doing. Describe the reactions to the rogue stabbing someone with their knife or firing a crossbow. Describe how things have happened, their world around them. Try to engage them in the story. It's never going to be concrete. There will always be players who are a bit nervous and they'll roleplay or want to roleplay, but do it in a very minimalist fashion. However, you just kind of have to get through that. People will warm up to things and some people won't, but all I can really say is that give a lot of opportunities for RP. Give moments where characters can interact with other NPCs or the environment in general, and their choice leads to something actually happening. If the characters feel like them roleplaying actually sees a benefit, sees something happening around them, sees some change happening, they will be more convinced to do so in the future. If you have them roleplay their way out of a scenario where a guard maybe has cornered the rogue and is going to take them to prison, or they're going to rat them out to like a local official or something, but the rogue kind of has this moment of charisma and maybe either bribes them or manages to kind of sharp talk their way out of things, then they're going to see that as a real scenario where they've made a big decision. Their own roleplay has led to something changing in the story. If they just kept quiet, then they would probably have just been in prison. That's it, You want to try and facilitate situations where the players actively see consequences for their positive actions, not just their negative actions. As for awkwardness, that just comes to the territory, man. We're nerds playing a nerdy game, role-playing. It's always going to feel a little bit awkward, but you get by it. The more you do it, the more you adjust. And and over time you'll become more confident to kind of lead your players into just having fun with each other. But I hope that in some way that helps you. Hopefully that's some kind of useful advice, and I hope that you have enjoyed watching this video. If you like this video, then consider hitting the like button or subscribing down below. If you really like this video, you can support me down on Patreon below, where all the money that I receive from this will go into creating more D&D creations on the maps you see in the background, or just making better and better videos. I'll thank you for getting this far, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.